Hi everyone, this is Lara Hammock from the Marble Jar channel, and in today's video, we'll go through the conversation that you should have with your older teenager about consent. Okay, with the hashtag #MeToo movement raging on right now, consent is definitely a hot topic. The story that recently broke about Aziz Ansari is particularly relevant. So first, let's do a quick definition of sexual consent in this context. All it is the agreement by two parties to participate in a sexual activity. So this activity does not have to be sex. This also covers kissing and touching. And yes, I will acknowledge that this is an embarrassing conversation to have with your kids, but I think it's really important that we do, and here's why. Consent requires direct and open communication about an awkward topic. And if we are too wrapped around our axle to talk about this with our kids, then how can we expect them to communicate well with each other? And the other thing, this is hard. We are asking them to act in direct opposition to some of the gender role expectations that they're receiving from our media and culture. What do I mean by that? I mean that men are taught to be strong and self-reliant, and we're asking them to be vulnerable and ask questions. And women are taught to be demure and nice, and we are asking them to speak directly about their needs and at times be downright rude about it. So take it from somebody who doesn't fit well into the archetypal female gender role. It is not easy to buck the system without negative feedback. And if that weren't enough, the notion of communicating about consent goes directly to our deepest fears. Margaret Atwood said once, "Men are afraid that women will laugh at them. Women are afraid that men will kill them." So men don't want to invite ridicule by asking too many questions. Women are scared that if they say no, it might end in violence. So this is not easy stuff. We are asking them to go against their basic instincts. So first, let's talk about boys. Okay, so for the purposes of this video, I'm going to speak in some broad generalities. Generally, I'm going to assume for the sake of simplicity that boys will be the aggressor and girls will be the gatekeeper. Obviously, this is not always the case, and I think all of these points need to be made to your teen, whether male or female. In addition, for simplicity's sake, again, I'm assuming heterosexual relationships in my pronouns, but obviously that is not the case with everyone, so please tailor this conversation and your pronouns to your teen situation. They still need this information regardless of sexual orientation. Okay. Here we go. Boys, ask first. You want to lean in for a kiss? How about asking first? I know, it will break the mood. She'll think that you sound stupid, etc., etc. Well, despite what you may think, I literally don't know a single woman who would not be charmed by a guy asking, "Would you mind if I kissed you?" If she wanted the kiss. And if she doesn't, yeah, it's a little awkward, but it's not as awkward as getting a mouthful of hair when she turns her head, or even worse, a slap across the face. Enthusiastic consent. The guideline is not just consent, but enthusiastic consent. If you're having fun, but all of a sudden it seems like she isn't, or doesn't seem enthusiastic about it, then you need to stop and figure out what's going on. Don't keep thinking that you can get her back in the mood. It really doesn't work that way. Consent requires mental clarity. Do not engage in sexual activity with someone who is too drunk, too sleepy, or too out of it to consent. It's not consensual. Don't manipulate. So here is a situation where you should not use your formidable powers of persuasion. Don't try to convince her. Don't plead. Don't make her feel guilty. Don't pout. And above all, don't make her scared. Be a good guy and just back off. Consent can be verbal or nonverbal, but when in doubt, ask if what you're doing is okay. Never assume consent because of flirting or because of style of dress. Neither of those has anything to do with consent. Here are some reasons to back off. Back off if she is not responding affirmatively, either verbally or non-verbally, if she physically moves away from you, if she is asking you to slow down, or she's saying other euphemisms like, "Let's take a break," or "I really have a headache," or "I'm having my period." Okay, now let's talk about girls. Again, I'm speaking in generalities and assuming that the girl is a sexual gatekeeper here. Obviously, that's not always the case. I am a person who believes that both parties have some responsibility with regard to sexual communication. No, I'm definitely not saying that it is a girl's fault if she is assaulted. The burden is obviously on the man to not commit sexual assault. But this is your body. It is important to take some precautions and to understand your role in consent. So the first thing is communicate. So this is harder than it sounds. Sure, it's fine if he's reading your nonverbal cues and you're reading his nonverbal cues. Great. But some people are not great at nonverbal cues. So it's really up to you to be really direct to get your point across. So I have a friend who doesn't get the cues for, now it's time to hang up the phone. Like when you say, okay, sounds good, in that sing-songy voice. Yeah, he doesn't get that. So I actually have to say, okay, now I'm hanging up the phone, or the call will literally never end. So that doesn't make him a bad person. It just means he's not totally tuned in to you. I've already covered how much we're expecting from guys. We can't also expect them to read our minds. So know what you want. Think in advance about how far you are willing to go in every situation. Even better, talk to a friend about where your limits are. I would actually advocate having this conversation with your partner in advance before passions rise and things get pressurized. So I know this sounds direct and clinical, but it's particularly important if you are feeling at all nervous about being alone with this person. Like, have this conversation before you go into an apartment or a dorm room. You don't want to find that his expectations are different from yours, and then you are in a situation where you are scared to say no. You can be kind without having to be nice. Being nice is what we were taught as girls. Go along to get along, be flexible, don't have a ton of opinions, make everyone happy, always be accommodating. Honestly, screw that. Don't be nice. Be honest. You will probably come across as not chill, but that is the price that we pay for open communication. However, do always strive to be kind. Don't try to hurt his feelings. He's a person too, and assuming he's not being predatory, he might just not be picking up on your nonverbal cues. And for God's sakes, don't laugh at him or ridicule him. That will tap into his deepest fear, and it might put you at risk of yours. Stay in control. Don't drink too much. Sometimes it can be tempting to use alcohol to make an awkward situation less awkward, but it doesn't take much before you are no longer driving your own bus, so don't let that happen. Avoid power imbalances. If you feel like the power difference between you and your partner will prevent you from speaking up, then really think twice before putting yourself in that situation. Power differentials can come from status, employment position, celebrity, or age, among many things. If this imbalance exists, but you feel perfectly comfortable speaking your mind, go for it. But do think about it in advance. You may not realize how much it will influence you in the moment. You don't owe him anything. I was always wary of the expectation of reciprocal transactions. As a result, I like to pay my own way, open my own doors, etc. I know from hearing it over and over and over again that this comes across as cynical and unromantic. But whatever. I'm as affected by psychological manipulation as anyone else, and I'd just rather have a nice, balanced situation that I can completely understand. Either way, you do not owe him anything for dinner and a movie. This is not a quid pro quo. Get comfortable with these phrases. Say them in the mirror if you need to. Can we slow way down? I am not ready to do that right now. Please stop. I'm saying no. If you don't start listening to me, I'm leaving. So this is heavy stuff. Obviously, most of the time you won't need to bring out the big guns, but it is always important to listen, communicate, and be willing to put on the brakes at any moment. Let me know what you think. Comments are always appreciated, and thanks for watching.